Hey guys, I'm Ivory and welcome to my channel. So in today's video, I will be doing 3 looks on the Jeffree Star Cosmetics Blue Blood palette. This is what it looks like if you haven't seen what it already looks like. Before this video, I've only played with it one time, so it's kind of a first impressions, and I'll definitely give my opinions at the very end of this video. I'm aware that since I did 3 looks that this is kind of a longer video, so I will give timestamps in the description box below so you are able to go from one look to the other in case you only wanted to see one. And because this video is focused on tutorials, any of the small details that you need to know, such as the price, swatches, as well as the overall packaging, is all on Jeffree Star's video. So if you are interested, I would just take a look at that or Google. But I will primarily be focusing on just creating looks and just the eyes. If you are interested in any of the products on my face, I will link them in the description box below as well. Before we get into the video, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I post new videos every Wednesdays and Sundays and post occasional bonus videos every week. Let's get into it. So like I said, in the description box, I will put a timestamp of when each look comes up in this video. I will tell you right now the order of all the looks right after the sentence. So the first look is a more green / turquoise based halo eye. This look is because I wanted to focus more on the greens of the palette. The second look is a blue smoky eye with a graphic liner. And the third look is the one that I'm wearing now. Again, very blue based since it is the Blue Blood palette. But this is another variation of a smoky eye with, of course, a little bit of fun liner. Starting off with an e.l.f. eye crease brush. I'm first going into the shade Flourishing, and I'm gonna stamp that into the socket of my eye. And they have not barked since I did this eye, and now that I'm ready to film, they're like And since I'm doing a halo eye, I'm making sure that the shadow is symmetrical. A lot of the times my looks will be more blown out on the outside, and that's not happening today. I'm just going to keep it as symmetrical as possible. And with this shadow, I like to press and then lightly buff. I don't want it to really go anywhere. I'm not blending it out too much. I'm really just establishing the shape that I want it to be in. Okay, so now that I have the shape down, I'm going in with the Morphe M506 brush, and I'm going to mix in Mint Tea and I'm Cold. And I'm gonna buff out this turquoise color, and I'm gonna take it pretty high up, but I'm not gonna touch my eyebrow, but I am gonna utilize pretty much all of my lid space. I have very small eyes, as you can see, and I want to use as much square footage as I can get. And then using the e.l.f. eye crease brush again, I'm gonna go back into Flourishing, but I'm also gonna mix it with Blue Blood, and I'm gonna blend where those two colors intersected, just so that there's like a nice gradient, like it goes from green to blue and it looks more seamless. I'm also just trying to play around with all the colors as much as I can. Next, with the Luxie 243 brush, I'm going to go into the shade Cremated, and I'm going to place that right under my crease. And I'm kind of like sticking it into the socket of my eye and really pushing it in. I'm going to take the same brush and I'm just going to blend it upwards just a little bit. It's not going to go too far from where it already is. I just want everything to kind of blow into each other. That was a weird sentence. Hopefully you know what I mean. I'm gonna take a Q-tip and I'm going in with some micellar water. I'm using the one from Garnier. This one is green. It is a mattifying one. I've never tried the original, but I've only ever gotten this and it works just fine. And with my Q-tip, I'm just gonna cut the crease basically so it is nice and clean. You could just go in with concealer, but since we have so much shadow down, it kind of just muddies everything. So I feel like if you do this first, you spend a lot less time packing on the shadows on top of it because you did the prep work. I spend way more time cutting the crease on this eye because this one is a little bit higher, so I have to fake the crease for this one. And whenever I think I finally got it, I go back in my videos and I'm like, maybe next time. And then with a Sigma Firm Blender brush, I'm going back in with the shade Cremated, and I'm gonna apply that to the innermost and outermost of my lid. And then with a clean M124 brush, I'm going into the shade Entitled, and I'm gonna work my way inwards, but I'm still gonna leave the centermost completely empty. And once I have the pigment pretty much laid down, I'll take this brush and I'll just blend it a little bit outwards, because once again, we want everything to fade nicely. And that might mean that I go back in with that dark gray and kind of just rebuff in. Like, I go back and forth a lot. I don't always put that in my videos because I don't know, I just feel like it's boring and no one wants to see the entire process, like they get it. So I kind of just show the cliff notes of the look. And then with the same M124 brush, I kind of just wiped it on a paper towel. I'm gonna go in with the shade Cullinan, and that's going right in the center. Okay, so I went ahead and did the rest of my face and I applied some lashes because I want this video to be focused on just the eyes. I'm first gonna go in with the Rimmel London Soft Kohl eyeliner. This is in pure white. I'm gonna add this to my waterline. And then with any like tiny definer brush or like a liner brush, I'm gonna go in with the shade I'm Cold and I'm gonna place that right on top of the white liner. If you don't wanna buy like a bunch of colored eye pencils, just get a white liner and then put any color powder you want on top and it will stick to that. Before, I was just putting the powder on my waterline with no white and I couldn't understand why it didn't stick. And as you can see, now my waterline is this baby blue. I'm super excited about it. Next, with a Morphe M506 brush, I'm gonna go back in with both Flourishing as well as Blue Blood, and I'm gonna smoke out the lower lash line. And then lastly, with a e.l.f. eyeliner brush, I'm gonna go into the shade Cremated. I'm gonna tight line my lower lash line. Did I say this is the last step? I lied, there's more. I'm gonna go in with a Morphe M431 brush. I'm gonna go into the shade Cullinan, and I'm gonna pop that into my inner corner. By the way, I ended up using Crystal Flesh to highlight the tops of my cheekbones today. I also used it on the tip of my nose and the bridge. And then I also went in with both Priceless as well as Wealthy, and I use that to brighten up under my eyes. Okay, and now for the fun part. I got this packet from Amazon. It's just like a bunch of different colored rhinestones. I will tell you right now, they are super hard to pick up and place with tweezers. So I'm gonna explain to you how I did it because I don't want you to have to go through what I did, and I don't want you to like use the tweezers and get super close to your eye and then it like pop out of the tweezers, goes into your eye. Like, how do you explain that to the ER? Like when the paramedics ask you how it got in your eye and you're just like, I'm just trying to bedazzle my face. Okay, so all I do is I get the back of my tweezers and I go in with NYX glitter glue, whatever glitter glue you have is fine, and I'm just gonna pop that in to my inner corner, and the remaining glue that you have left on the back of your tweezers, and you're gonna use what's remaining to pick up the rhinestone, and then you place it very carefully close to your eye. And this is the first look. I kind of wish I did this look last because I have 2 more to do, and I would have liked to have done the intro with this look, but who knows, I might just do this inner corner situation with my other looks because I love it. Moving on to the next look, starting off with my Sigma E44 brush. I'm first going into the color Blue Monday. I love Blue Monday, by the way. If you don't know what I'm talking about, YouTube Blue Monday New Order and you will know what I'm talking about. I love that song. It's so old school. It just makes you want to do lines of cocaine or something. But I'm starting at the base and then really blowing this out, and it's not gonna go past my crease really. We'll get to that point, but right now I'm just keeping this kind of low. I'm focusing this on the outer corner, and once there's less pigment on the brush, I move it inwards, and I like to pat this shadow first before I start blending. So a little pat, pat, pat right here, and then blend. I feel like that also really helps keep the color from becoming too choppy as well. With an M506 brush, I'm going into the shade Blue Blood. I'm gonna tap off the excess because this is kind of, some of the mattes are a little bit dusty, such as like mint tea. It's got quite a bit of kickback, not that I mind. Kickback doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad, it just means that it's very soft. And I'm gonna use that to blend out Blue Monday, and I'm blending it out at the top as well as on the side. And then using the same brush without cleaning it, I'm going into I'm Cold, and I'm gonna blend out Blue Blood. And I'm gonna go past my eyebrow tail. I want this to be very dramatic. This is definitely not like meeting your boyfriend's parents for the first time type of look. This is purely artistic. I'm gonna go in with Blue Monday again and just re-intensify. And I'm also gonna start buffing it upwards so that the fade is really seamless. With another really small flat shader brush, I'm gonna go into the shade Cullinan, and I'm gonna apply that to the first third of my eye. And then once that's down, I'm gonna take the same brush, I'm gonna flip it, and I'm gonna go into the shade Ice Tray, and I'm gonna apply that to the middle third of my eye. You guys, these shimmers, oh, they blend like a dream. And then with a M124 brush, I'm next gonna go into the shade Ocean Ice. I'm gonna apply it to that empty gap that is left. This blue is like Rose's necklace before she dropped it into the ocean, which I think is pretty selfish, but whatever. She could have just given it to her daughter or sold it for some money so that she could have lived a comfortable life, but what do I know? When it first came out on cable, I remember there was like a marathon of Titanic, like 24 hours just Titanic on one specific channel. And I was in first grade and I watched Titanic back to back all the time. I have no idea why I thought it was interesting when I was a child, and it's not even a cartoon, but I loved Titanic. And then with a Morphe M410 brush, I'm going to mix both Cullinan as well as Ice Tray, just so that I basically get like a baby blue, and I'm gonna add that to my brow bone. And then for the fun part, I'm going in with the NYX gel liner in the shade White, and I'm using a Morphe 250-1 brush, and I'm going to carefully sketch out this graphic liner. My best advice for doing something like this is start off with as little product as possible, and even just like adding dots, like where you want the tail to start flicking, start like tracing an outline as to where you want everything to go, and you can always go back and re-intensify the white, but for now the outline is the most important. Okay, so that took a super duper long time, but of course you guys don't know that because I edited that out. I'm gonna take a liner brush and I'm gonna go back in with Cullinan and I'm gonna use that to set this white liner. I know it's not exactly the same. This eye, time and time again, has told me that it hates me, it wants nothing to do with me. I don't really understand what it has to gain by being so freaking uncooperative, but it doesn't want to work. I've tried so many things. I've tried being nice to it. I've been verbally abusive to my eye. She don't want to listen. With an M506 brush, I'm going to go in with Blue Blood and I'm going to smoke out my lower lash line. I can see a lot of the powders from the blues have fallen under my eyes. If you do looks, I would suggest you do your eyes first because it doesn't look the best under there right now. And then with an e.l.f. eyeliner brush, I'm going to go back in with Blue Monday and I'm going to use that to tightline my lower lash line. I'm gonna take the white eyeliner again. I'm gonna add that into my waterline. I'm not gonna put anything on top. It's just gonna be white because I think it goes well with the liner. And this is the completed look. This was my first time actually attempting this. Usually I like to practice my looks so that things go by a lot faster, but I was just so excited about this palette that I really didn't get time to, so I'm kind of just freehanding everything and doing whatever I feel like doing. And yeah, so this is look number 2. Alright, so moving on to the last look. Before we even begin, I just wanted to say that the last look that I just did, I did not use an eye primer and everything worked out really fine. So I thought I could do this look without an eye primer. I just used concealer and the mattes didn't blend well on my outer corner. There was a lot of patchiness, there was a lot of texture. I could see like these little dots that were not just blending, and no matter how much I packed on, it just was not cooperating with me. So I ended up redoing this eye, putting on an eye primer, and it worked out a lot better. So I was lucky in the last look that I didn't have any complications, but this look did give me a little bit of trouble. So just a heads up, I do think an eye primer will make these shadows perform a lot better. Using a Sigma E44 brush, I'm going into the shade Blue Blood. I'm gonna pack that in my outer V, and just like a lot of my looks, I concentrated on the outside of my lid, and then once there's less product is when I start bringing the shadow in. Next, with a Morphe M506 brush, I'm gonna go into the shade Minted and I'm gonna use that to blend out Blue Blood. So what I've learned since I had to redo this eye is I was having trouble blending out the shadow because I started buffing right away and the color just wouldn't stick. So I tried the technique that I always do with pressed pigments. I don't know if this is a pressed pigment, but what I do with pressed pigments is I lay down the color and it's gonna look a little choppy, like there's gonna be an obvious line between the blue and this mint green. But once the color is stamped down, then is when I start buffing it out. And I feel like it stays a lot better if I do it that way. And then with the same brush, I'm gonna go in with both Blue Blood as well as Mint Tea. And I'm gonna buff right where the two colors meet. Mixing the two colors just makes the fade a lot nicer. And I'm going in really tight circles to buff the color in. And as always, I always go back in with the first shade and reestablish it because it does fade a little as you blend other colors on top of it. So I'm just going back in and re-intensifying. Next, with a different Morphe M506 brush, I'm going to mix both Blue Monday as well as Power. And I'm gonna place that right below the crease and a little bit in the crease as well, actually. And same thing, I'm gonna just stamp the color in and then buff after I have my shape down. And then with the same brush, I'm going in with both Blue Monday as well as Undertaker. And I'm gonna stick that only in the outer V. So it's super smoky over here. Well, not super smoky, but it's got a little smoke. I'm next gonna go in with a Q-tip and some micellar water, and I'm gonna use that to cut the crease. And after I cut the crease, I'm gonna go in with concealer. In my personal preference, I think metallics and shimmers stick better on the lid if there's some type of cream base as opposed to just applying it on bare skin. Next, with a Morphe M224 brush, I'm going into the shade Ocean Ice, and I'm placing that everywhere that we just applied that concealer. This is one of the prettiest blues I've ever seen. It's gorgeous. And my brush is not even wet, and it's so vibrant. I'm next gonna go in with my Sigma E06 brush and use the NYX gel liner in the color white to draw both my wing as well as that line in my crease. Now when you use this gel liner, it's gonna mix in with the blue and kind of make like a baby blue. I will tell you right now, this took a lot of layers. My advice would be that between each layer, wipe off your brush so you get some of that blue shadow off. That way when you dip into the gel liner, you're getting as much white as possible. It is a little bit tedious, but what are you gonna do? And then with a Morphe M410 brush, I'm gonna go in with Cullinan once again, and I'm gonna use that to highlight my brow bone. Okay, so I went ahead and did the rest of my face off of camera. I did end up using Crystal Flush again as my highlight. And on top of my black lippy, I did apply Ocean Ice. And I just patted that all over the lip just to give it a little bit of like a sapphire type of feel. And it also just makes everything more monochromatic. I'm gonna go in with my white eyeliner again. And I'm gonna add that into my waterline. And then using a Morphe M506 brush, I am dipping into Blue Blood, and I'm gonna smoke out my lower lash line. I'm gonna connect it to the top. Next, with an e.l.f. eyeliner brush, I'm gonna use the shade Undertaker, which is the last shade of the palette. I'm gonna use that to tightline my lower lash line. And lastly, with a pencil brush, I'm gonna go into Cullinan one last time, and I'm gonna apply that into my inner corner. And this is the third and final look. So final thoughts, I would say overall that these shadows were really amazing, especially the shimmers. The shimmers are outstanding. I often wouldn't have to use a wet brush and they still glided on with full pigmentation and with a lot of ease. A lot of the mattes are quite soft and dusty, so you will get a little bit of kickback. I don't mind, but I do want to note it because that is something to be wary of. Like I said earlier, it is a lot better to apply these shadows with an actual eye primer underneath, not just concealer. And when it comes to the mattes, I found that packing them on first and then blending really helped to avoid patchiness, as well as being able to get the true pigment in the pan. Overall, I'm really happy with this palette. I'm super inspired to do more looks with it. Let me know if you like me doing 3 looks in one video, or if you would prefer I do 1 look, because I know it gets a little long when I do 3 looks. And that is it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to like this video and feel free to comment down below what other types of videos you'd like to see from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!